it, where her father would be able to park and they could start the process of unloading. "When you finish, Miss Lewis, if you could ask your father to repark his car out at the front, and then if you could all report to the Memorial Chapel at 2 o'clock sharp for the Commandant's welcome." Again, the map was marked in pencil to show Sam where she needed to be. She suspected that finding her way without asking for further directions was one of her first tests here. Sam returned to her dad and told him where they needed to go. "I'm having flashbacks," he remarked as he slipped the car into gear. "Well, bully for you," she thought, nerves making her grumpy. He drove off the huge parade square at the front of the beautiful neoclassical building that was to be Sam's home for the next year. Assuming the army didn't have any other ideas and chuck her out. Not that being chucked out was an option. She knew she had to have the moral fibre and courage to take everything the army might throw at her and get on with it. She had to get through this course. It was only a year. Surely anything was bearable for a year. To fail was unthinkable. She knew if she did, she'd disappoint her father, and she couldn't bear to give him more heartache. While her relationship with her father might be troubled, she hadn't lacked for affection from other sources. Her grandparents, and the succession of 3 nannies who had looked after her, had all told her she was loved and cherished, even though her father had never managed it. Now Sam was an adult, she understood why, but her earlier bewilderment had left its indelible mark. Back then, she'd been sure that he blamed her for the tragedy that had struck his family. Maybe if she'd not been born first, everything would have been all right. It was William, her twin, who had died at birth, along with their mother, when the emergency C-section had gone horribly wrong. Sam's birth had gone well, but then William had got stuck, and when his heart rate had dipped alarmingly, they'd been forced to operate, and that was when the placenta had been severed. In the desperate, chaotic minutes following this, the team hadn't been able to save either her mother or her brother. When she'd been old enough, her granny had told her what had happened, and had assured her that it had been no one's fault, least of all hers. A terrible accident. One of those things. But for years, Sam had been sure she'd known differently. It was her fault for being first. Now she was older, she understood that her father was probably terrified of going through the hurt of loving someone again in case they got ripped out of his life, like his wife and baby had been. Keep everyone at arm's length. Don't get involved. That way, you can't be hurt again. No wonder her father hadn't ever been able to love her properly, although for all his shortcomings as a parent, she still loved him. And she hoped that maybe one day she'd make him so proud he would love her back. Michelle Flower's father drew his car up on the parade square about 10 minutes after the Lewis's car had been driven off round the back of Old College. Major Henry Flowers shook his head. "You know, I still can't get my head round the fact that you passed selection." "Get over it, Dad. The army sees my potential, that's all." Her father was far from convinced. "Mind you, it's one thing pulling the wool over their eyes at the selection board. It'll be another thing entirely convincing them for the best part of a year that you've got the makings of an officer." "I've got everything they're looking for," said Michelle confidently. "Brains, courage, spirit." Henry snorted. "I didn't hear obedience in that list." "That's because I've got a mind of my own." Henry snorted again. "There's a difference between being able to think independently and being willfully rebellious."